Hello, my name is Daniel Morgan, and I will be critiquing two artwork by famous Vienna, Austrian artists from the 19th century. So, first one we're going to talk about is Oscar Kokoschka, and this is titled Anschluss, Alice in Wonderland. Just a little bit of background. Oscar Kokoschka was born in 1886 in Austria, and he died in 1980 in Switzerland. He grew up in a pretty rapidly changing world where everything was being heavily industrialized. Austria was sort of on a decline. He did enlist in World War I, and they lost that war. He had a lot of inspiration from expressionist artists, although he would deny that comparison. He's known for his visible brushstrokes and dreamlike imagery, as you can see with the thicker visible brushstrokes here along this artwork. After World War I, he experienced a lot of horrors of war, and his artwork turned to more broader colors and more abstract design. Such as no longer having solid outlines, which led to more blurry shapes. He traveled around the world at this time, mainly painting landscapes. And then in the late 1930s, Kokoschka's art started to be taken off museum walls in Germany because the Nazis deemed it degenerate art. And soon after, Nazi Germany annexed Austria, and Kokoschka traveled to London, where he struggled financially to the point where he couldn't buy oils for his paintings, and he instead settled on watercolor, which we see here. Currently, this painting can be seen in the Leopold Museum in Vienna at the Kokoschka exhibit. So, firstly, the cultural significance here is pretty strong. The Anschluss refers directly to the annexation of Austria by Nazi Germany, and you can see a really tumultuous and chaotic environment with Vienna in the background on fire. And it's no secret that Kokoschka is making a statement against fascism and Nazi Germany. This painting is filled to the brim with allegory. You could see a naked Alice on the right who symbolizes truth, and she's fenced in by barbed wire. And this is expressing to the viewer that truth and the news are not mutually exclusive at this point in time. Everything that they were reading is filled with propaganda. The middle three men are wearing English, German, and French helmets, respectively, and they symbolize the three wise monkeys: see no evil, speak no evil, hear no evil. And this has to do with how those countries responded to the annexation of Austria. And Kokoschka once said that painting isn't based on 3 dimensions, but 4. The 4th dimension is a projection of myself. And you can see that there's deep anger and sadness shown by Kokoschka at the way that the great powers of Europe handled the hostile takeover of his home while still pretending to do it in the name of peace. Next, I want to talk about the line work that Kokoschka uses. You can see the signature disorienting compositions and bold brushstrokes that attack the viewer head on. The thicker brushstrokes create an abstract and almost dreamlike state in the background that show an influence of Sigmund Freud, his analysis of dreams and the unconscious. I feel that the strong colors and harsh lightings lead to a heavy contrast between light and shadow. And when I view the colors, it almost creates a carnival-like feeling to the painting. It really is shocking to the eyes, but I find it very beautiful, and I really enjoy this work. The next piece that I'm going to talk about is Gustav Klimt's The Kiss. And this is arguably his most famous work, made in 1908. Klimt was also a Vienna-born artist in 1862, and he died in 1918. He grew up in poverty along 6 siblings. He was inspired by Byzantine, Egyptian, classical Greek, and Baroque art. He took part in the symbolist movement, but his obsession with lewd depictions of the female body got his work rejected by the rigid expectations of the artistic establishment at the time, which led him to form his own movement called the Vienna Succession, and he was elected as their first president. So this piece is heavily inspired by Byzantine mosaics, and it's a part of his golden phase where he added platinum, gold leaf, and silver into the painting. So you can look at how the light exists on this piece where there's almost no shadow present anywhere. Instead, everything's lit up with strong colors, and the precious metals add an extra layer of magnificence. It almost deifies the two. And I almost feel like we're gazing at some sort of Greek mythological scene. The precious metals have a lot of deep meaning to Klimt. His father was a gold engraver. It draws from history and Byzantine mosaics that he spent a lot of time in Ravenna and Venice viewing. And the third one is because he grew up in poverty and his financial struggles, I feel like when he painted this, he was already very successful, and he's almost showing off this like lavish wealth with which he lacked in his childhood. But that still contrasts with how he lived day to day. He wore basic robes and sandals, and he didn't frequent luxury like cafes. He was mostly an isolated man who was devoted to his work. So something I brushed on before is that Klimt had an obsession with the female body. And he even has a quote saying, "All art is erotic." But something interesting here is in The Kiss, Klimt depicts a fully clothed woman, contrary to most of his other works. But even still, the post-Victorian society still perceived The Kiss as pornographic. So this is another reason why Klimt had started his own movement to step away from this establishment that rejected his art style. So I want to bring attention to the geometric shapes and balance. You can see how the man's robes have a lot of squares and rectangular shapes. This symbolizes stability, whereas the female form is symbolized with soft spiraling energy and flowing wavy lines. You can tell that the woman is being passively kissed by the dominant male. And I think that we can infer how Klimt thought about women as being submissive in their role in society and fickle and less stable. This falls in line with a lot of the 20th century views on gender roles, but, it's funny that he rejected, how people viewed his lewd art, but still thought of women in this way. If you look at the colors of The Kiss, you can see there's like a connection between the earth and cosmos, the purples and greens, that the couple are resting on, floating against a backdrop of a golden void. And honestly, when I view this piece, I get a sense of spiritual nirvana. I remember staring into the starry night out in the Negev desert, and with my feet firmly on the ground, I stared up into the most stars I've ever seen, and the distance felt limitless. And here, with the combination of the male and female figures, with her eyes closed, I'm inspired with feelings of inner peace. The eroticism that the contemporary viewers were shocked to witness does not cross my mind here. And I'm sure that's a difference between 100 years of evolving culture and freedom of expression that have altered us. But Gustav Klimt created a masterpiece here that creates a combination of history, spirituality, stability, and emotional expression into a mosaic of the human experience. And I hope you enjoy this work just as much as I do. Thank you very much.